All right, welcome back to Relocation Serbia, where we talk about helping people relocate to Serbia. And like our motto goes, start fresh, start Serbia. And today we have Julian Galuzzo here. He moved to Serbia with his wife and now his two kids as well here in Serbia 6 years ago. And we're going to interview him. And he came from Canada and he made Serbia his home. So we're going to ask him about what inspired him to move to Serbia, about his experience in Serbia, the positives and negatives, and let you decide if Serbia is an appropriate place for you to come to Serbia and start your life here. Thanks a lot, Julian, for coming to the show, video, whatever you want to call it.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys might know Julian from other platforms out there, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. What other platforms are you on?
Pretty much just TikTok and YouTube. I've been focusing a little bit more on YouTube lately, but anywhere that I can go. I've been talking to some news stations as well recently. It's pretty interesting, I guess, for people here to see why it is that people are moving here, because in a lot of countries in Europe, the trend seems to be that their people move to countries like Canada. So when they see people from Canada moving to their countries, they often wonder why. And you also may be wondering why I made that move, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Definitely. And that brings me up to my first question is, what originally inspired you to move to Serbia?
Well, absolutely nothing. Basically, I had done some traveling, thanks to my parents, through Europe when I was a kid, and I very quickly realized that the way that I like to live life, the way that I am, does not align so much with Canada. It aligns a lot more with Europe, specifically Central Eastern Europe. But I never actually been to Serbia. I had, though, been to Hungary. So I remember telling my girlfriend at the time, wife now, kind of about what life is like there, about how it's a lot more affordable, about how people are always out in cities and having fun. She also thought that was pretty awesome, and so she was down. And we booked a one-way flight to Hungary, and we actually ended up staying not in Budapest, but in a city called Szeged, if you know where that is. It's on the south, near the Serbian border. And we were there for about 3 weeks, and my friend and business partner at the time is from Canada, but he's Serbian. And he just told me, hey, Serbia's a pretty cool place, why don't you check it out there? And I had no idea what to expect. Like, you know, the whole joke here about how Serbia, Siberia, Syria, that's literally how much I knew about Serbia. Definitely. Like, diddly squat, absolutely nothing. Exactly. So that was what actually inspired us to come here in the first place.
Wonderful. And you just came here, and how long did you stay here the first time then?
So the first time that we were here is actually, we're still in that time because we never left. It's not like we came here, left, decided to come back. We came here and then stayed. So at the start, we were in Novi Sad, which is an absolutely beautiful city. I recommend it to everyone as the first place that you stay in Serbia. And after about a week there, my wife and I just talked and we said, we absolutely love it here. Do we want to go anywhere else? No, not really. So from that point on, we just stayed. We've been back to Canada 3 times since then only, and that's it.
In the past 6 years, just to go and visit 3 times.
That is it. We've never once gone, oh, let's go and live for a year in Canada again, and then came back here. That's it.
That's very inspiring that, you know, it's just a one-way stop, and
yeah,
that was it, set roots and begin a life here.
Exactly.
And so being that you just made that one trip here and you spend most of your life in Canada, what is the biggest cultural differences between Serbia and Canada that surprised you the most?
So something that people talk about a lot is culture shock. And when I first came here, I would say nothing. It's just people living their lives. It's not that much different in the sense that, Canada has a lot of European influence, as does America, because most of who built the country is settlers from Europe. Yeah. So you don't immediately notice all that much. But once you live here for a long time, you start to see the differences. And if I had to pick one thing that really surprised me here is the culture around living and working. And what I mean by that is in Canada, the most important things to people is their job. They get up in the morning, they go to work, they come home, they watch TV, they go to bed, and it's just kind of a repetition of that. And everyone's just focused on work. Whereas the way that people live in Serbia is more so they have their job, they work hard. Well, some of them do, some of them don't.
Yep.
But, you
Like
know,
anywhere.
exactly. So work is important to them in that sense, but they work for the sake of living. They work to pay their bills and to afford the life that they want to live, but their life is more important to them than work. So something, for example, that always interested me so much in Canada versus here is in Canada, people will brag to each other like, oh, I work 15 hours a day, I do this and that. Whereas in Serbia, if you tell someone that, they're like, yeah, they feel bad for you. It's not a flex. It's like, that's sad, man. I hope your life gets better.
Yeah.
Here, it's more of a brag to tell someone you work less than it is that you work more. And that's a really big difference. And you can see that just in the way that people are, top to bottom.
I think that's very important, especially those that are in North America, Canada, especially. I've never lived in the U.S., so I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's the same mindset where it's always in grind mode. It's you're always on. Where here, you have that time to go on vacation. Weekends are time to rest, and even the weekdays. Like you said, people work, but at the same time, you see them going and enjoying their life in the evenings, spending time with their family, doing things that are important to them rather than just their career.
Exactly. And something that I guess is a little bit deep on that topic and something that I've noticed is the way that people view death in Serbia versus in Canada. If you start talking to someone about death, about, we're all going to die, we all know that. But if you say that to a Canadian, it's like, no, I don't want to talk, like I'm scared, because this is just my theory. They haven't lived yet. They haven't experienced life, the life they want to live, because they're just work until one day they retire and whatever. Whereas here, you live your life throughout your life. It's not you work and then you turn 65 and you live. It's you live from the start to the end. And so people are just a lot more comfortable with, what's going to happen after.
Yeah, and I can relate to that, especially being in Canada. Everyone strives for that retirement age to actually, start doing the things that they wanted to do in life, where here people are able to do it throughout their whole life. Go down to Greece, go visit the world and other places around Europe or wherever it is that you can go, because Serbians, with their passport, they do have a lot of accessibility throughout the world, not just here in Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
And so also you've started a family here in Serbia, and you recently had your second son, which congratulations once again, of course. And with that being said, how has starting a family in Serbia shaped your experience here?
So actually quite a bit. And the reason that I would say that is this. Growing up in Canada, you see the way that people are with kids. Kids kind of seem like they're in the way, like they're an inconvenience. Whereas in Serbia, kids come first 100% of the time.
That's right.
Everyone loves your kids. If you live especially in a village in Serbia, you're not the only one raising that kid. The whole village is raising that kid.
Yeah.
And everyone cares. If you go in a line here and you have a young kid with you, there's a rule that you need to cut to the front of the line, and everyone around you enforces that rule. Yeah. And living here with kids just makes me realize how beautiful that society is, that kids are the most important thing. And it makes it a lot more encouraging to start a family, because it's not like you have a kid and now you're, a pain in everyone's ass. It's you have a kid and that's beautiful, and we want to help you because, we need more people.
That's right.
And I absolutely love that, and that's made me appreciate living here so much more.
No, that makes sense, and I've experienced that too, having a child born in Serbia. And when my wife was pregnant here in Serbia, get onto public transportation, people are moving out of their seat to help you, going to the grocery stores or any other processes. You hop to the front of the line because they want to make sure that you're good, your kids are good, they're not stressed out. And so it's a lot more accommodating here than it is in Canada as well.
Yeah, like here, if you're going on a bus and an old lady sees a pregnant woman, the old lady will get up and give her seat to the pregnant woman, because they're just considered sacred and precious. And that's true, that's the way it is. But in Canada, that's just really not the way that people view it, unfortunately.
No, that's, and you've hit that and those kids are almost a nuisance there, and especially if the kid's crying. Kids are going to cry, and in Canada, it's like, would you shut that kid up? Absolutely,
exactly. Yesterday I was at a neighbor of mine, Slava, and our son who's 9 months old, babies, they always need something, need some attention. We weren't even holding him the entire time because someone comes like, oh, let me hold your baby.
Yes.
Let me play with your baby.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And the kids need that also to associate with other people, to build that relationship, that instinct, and to be around other people. And I think that's just a beautiful thing. And being that you've been in Serbia now for 6 years, I'm sure you've toured around Serbia, and much being in Canada, you've been around in Canada quite a bit. How would you describe the natural beauty of Serbia compared to Canada's landscapes?
So something that's really interesting, whenever you talk to someone in Serbia and say you're from Canada, they immediately go, as I think anyone in the world does, ooh, Canada has beautiful nature.
Yeah.
And that is 100% true. Canada has a ton of nature. But something I like to tell people here is from East Canada to West Canada is like going from Belgrade to Mumbai, India. It is such a massive country. And the thing is, when you move somewhere in Canada, it's not like when you move to Serbia, you go here, there, kind of go through the entire country. You're not going through all of Canada. And the thing is, where I grew up in Canada is Southern Ontario. And as for natural beauty there, I haven't really seen that much. That area of Canada, which is roughly the same size of Serbia, there's not that much natural beauty compared to in Serbia. I live in Srem, which is flat, but there's a lot of beautiful rivers. If I go 2 hours south, mountains as far as the eye can see. Here, if anyone's watching this, go to Tara National Park on the River Drina. I've been to the Amalfi Coast in Italy. I've been to some of the most beautiful places in Europe. To me, the River Drina is the most beautiful place that I've been. And so when you take the piece of land that is Serbia, the small piece of land that is Serbia, and compare it to the small piece of land that I lived in Canada, if you ask me, the natural beauty here is way, way more. But depending on where you live in Canada, if you go up north where nobody lives, there's some beautiful stuff there too. So that's an interesting one. I can't really say which one's better or worse, but definitely different.
Yeah, and you made a good point about how Serbia is the size of southwestern Ontario or Ontario altogether, and for our viewers, like in Canada, I could drive from the southwestern part of Ontario to the northern part of Canada called Thunder Bay, and that's a 17-hour drive to get from point A to point B. But here in Serbia, if you drove 17 hours, you're going through countries, right? Like, it's so accessible here. And just to go visit other countries, not just Serbia, but, you can travel all of Serbia in a day and go and visit so many places that is in such a shorter amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. And not even just within Serbia, there's so much, but when you start to talk about that, for example, from a place like Barrie, where I'm from, to Thunder Bay, that is a long distance. In the same distance, you could go from where we are to Barcelona, Spain. That is west Europe. You could go to Greece and back in that time. You could go to Istanbul and almost back. And that's another really cool thing about Serbia is if you like to travel, there is almost no better place to be. You could get a round-trip ticket to Dubai for about $300, to Spain for like $100, Norway for $100. Like anywhere that you want to go, except North America, it's just so cheap. It's not even expensive to fly to Asia from here. It's such a good hub to stay and travel from.
Yeah, definitely. And public transportation, regardless of if it's a car or a train or a bus or a flight, they're all so accessible to everyone, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do, and affordable altogether.
Yeah, exactly. And even though something that a lot of Serbians like to say within Serbia is our public transportation isn't that good. And the thing is, I've been to Germany, I've been to Austria, and if you compare those, yeah, sure, the public transportation here isn't great. But that being said, I've never had really any significant issue, and it's cheap. I remember taking the GO train from Barrie to Toronto. It's $25 to go there and back.
Yeah.
Comparably, if I wanted to go from here to Belgrade, I think it's about $8 there and back.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, so it's not bad at all.
Yeah. And we have a high-speed train here, too.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, no. It's 30 minutes from Belgrade to Novi Sad, which is awesome. They're opening one, which is going to go to Subotica. And then you'll be able to get to, I think, Budapest in 2 hours on the train.
Right. Yeah, they're testing that line out right now. And from what I see for future developments, they're going to also extend that all the way down to Greece as well.
Yes.
So you can go right from Greece right to Budapest, which is going to be
Yeah.
beautiful altogether.
Yeah.
And then, so since you've been here in Serbia, again, for a while, you've seen some good, you've seen the bad. And so what advice would you give to someone considering relocating to Serbia?
Well, first things first is know what you're getting into, in the sense that the way that life works here is different from what it is in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And something in Serbia that is absolutely everything is connections. If you know people here, life is easy. If you know nobody here, life is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're somebody who doesn't really like to talk to people very much or anything like that, you might have a little bit of a difficult time here. But if you're a social person, your life moves rapidly.
Definitely. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do here at Relocation Serbia is help those individuals looking to come to Serbia make that process so much easier, because it's already difficult enough moving to one country to another, but not having connections, not knowing where to turn to is going to add that extra layer of difficulty. And that's one thing that I don't know, is that something that you would have loved to have, or did you have that coming into Serbia?
Yeah, so when we came here, the thing is, we knew basically nobody. We didn't know the language whatsoever. We didn't know the processes. We just weren't used to any of it, and it was really, really difficult. I can tell you with absolute confidence that the thought of going back to Canada has never crossed my mind, but the only things in Serbia that have made me think, oh, this is really difficult to live here, is those administrative processes. They are really difficult when you don't know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and you can run into people who aren't really willing to help you out. So if you don't know the way to go, like if I compare, for example, I'm still on temporary residences, I've got still some more time until I can become a citizen here. When I first came here, getting that temporary residence, it was like, book a week off work, go left, right, up, down.
And do it again.
And do it all again
Yeah.
4 times. Like, you have no idea what's going on. It is so difficult, whereas now, because I know the right people, I know where to go, and I know the processes, it's very easy. But, you know, those processes, if you don't know what's going on, and if you don't know the language, are enough to literally drive you insane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that kind of leads me into the next one. How do you find the administrative processes of finding your way around in Serbia?
Well, it's a completely different system. So the system in Canada, as far as I've experienced it, you know, it's like you ask someone, how do I do this? They tell you how to do it, you get it done. It's very straightforward. Here, it's a very, let's say you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of
Yes.
system. So if you go in somewhere and ask a desk worker, hey, how do I get my driver's license transferred? They're going to say, I don't know. And it's super, super, super confusing. But once you start to figure out how the system works, it becomes a lot easier. So it used to be horrible. Now it is not very hard. But when I first came here, man, it was just every 2 weeks, I'm like, oh, it's paperwork time. And it was this whole runaround. So,
Yeah. I could just imagine.
Yeah.
And then coming into my final question is, if you could describe your journey in Serbia in one word, what would it be and why?
Okay, this is 2 words, but I'm going to say worth it. And the reason why I would say that is because, you know, we're young. Like, I'm not even 23 years old. I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
And the things that we've been able to do in this country, you know, we're living here, we're debt-free, our house is ours, we don't owe anyone anything. And growing up in Canada, it was just basically, I was faced with the reality of growing up means you're going to be a constant slave to debt. And that was not a reality that I was okay with living in. So coming here was essentially our way of getting out of that. And, you know, we're not sitting here trying to be millionaires. We just want to be happy, have a good life, and not owe people a whole bunch of money. So coming here has allowed us to do that. That being said, when you're taking any trip and going and moving to another country, it is not easy.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle, it's a journey. And at the end of the day, it's the best choice that we've ever made. You could ask my wife, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll tell you, if I knew a lot of people from the start, it would have been a lot easier.
Yeah, and you made a great point that you're in your early 20s, and a lot of people who are thinking about relocating to Serbia are, you know, in their 30s, 40s, and thinking, oh, they have to be set in their life already. And that's just simply not the fact. You can come here in your early 20s or in your late teens and actually start a life here and actually get somewhere a lot further in life than if you were to do that in Canada.
Exactly. I mean, here's a story for you. When we first came here, I was just starting a company at that time, and my pay was extremely, extremely low, as it is for pretty much anyone who's just starting a company, right? So when we came here, we were making about 600 euros a month, right? And we had in savings, we'll call it, about 1,500 euros. We didn't have anything when we came here. You know, it's not like coming here with Western money, you know, makes it super easy. If you've got stuff to bring from the West, great, because your life is going to be easier, right? But even if you don't, you can come here and start from absolute scratch, and it is going to go well, especially if you work online. But even if you don't, Serbia is, I believe, either the fastest growing or one of the fastest growing economies in Europe. There are opportunities everywhere. All you need to do is open your good eye, and you will find opportunities here.
Definitely. No, you're right. Serbia, this year alone in 2024, is the fastest growing economy. Even though it's not an EU country, it's grown 4% GDP just this year, which outperformed all EU countries, which is absolutely fantastic for Serbia. Is there anything that you'd like to let the viewers know, how they could reach you if you'd like to throw that out there, or any last touches that would help people out thinking about moving to Serbia?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to reach out to me, you can go to my YouTube channel. You can drop the link in the description, or my TikTok. I have an email on YouTube. I am happy to let anyone who's interested know whatever it is that they want to know. And the only thing that I would say really is everywhere on earth has its own good and its own bad, and you need to decide what is right for you. That being said, if you're someone who is essentially looking at your future in the West, and just like me, all you see is an endless debt trap, a lack of freedom, and kind of just people always looking at you, and not in a good way, but kind of they don't like what you're doing, you just want to live your own life, I think you're going to have a really, really awesome time in Serbia. I think it's somewhere that, in my opinion, everyone needs to go and visit and see if they vibe with the vibe, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank you for joining me on this video. It's been very informative. I'm sure it's been inspiring to the viewers watching this video. Any of the viewers out there watching this video are looking for advice or any information when it comes to relocating to Serbia, feel free to reach out to Julian or myself at relocationserbia.com. We'd be happy to help you, and we'll see you on the next one.